Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning. Yay. Well, we have reached the end of our summer series based on the 10 stations of peace that are along our Serenity Trail. And so today, we're just gonna, I'm gonna attempt to summarize the last 10 talks, but really sort of highlight, the most transformational ideas that we've been talking about and, explore how we can combine some of these spiritual principles and practices to propel us into quantum growth, or at least point us in that direction. And I promise I will let you know about how you can take this further, how you can take it deeper and really work with it and really propel you into that kind of growth. So ultimately, the whole purpose of walking this spiritual path or any spiritual path is to awaken from the dream of separation, awaken to the love. That dream of separation that, we're born into, this hypnotic state that we're born into, that this belief that we believe that we're separate from God, that we're separate from each other, that we're separate from our source, right? And to heal from all of the effects that dream of separation has created in our lives. All the lack, limitation, misery, craziness, all the places that we're stuck, and to really lift that veil of illusion. That's the purpose. Now, as we embark on our path, as we're walking along, not long after we start, do we realize this is not a walk in the park. This is not a cakewalk. In fact, it could throw us way out of our comfort zone. I remember seeing a cartoon once, this one-frame cartoon, and in the corner there was this cute little cloud, and on the cloud it had the words, "Your comfort zone." And then filling the entire top of the frame was this beautiful rainbow and this golden sunlight radiating above everything with the words, "Everything you really want." So you gotta leave the comfort of that cute little cloud to have everything you really want. And it's not always easy, right? It's not always easy. So we talked about that in the first week, and we talked about also the good news is anytime you're embarking on a spiritual path, you have a divine guide at your side. You have an inner divine spirit that is wanting so much to emerge so that you can be the person that you were meant to be, so that you can live the life that you were meant to live. That's always there. That's always present. So we talked about that day, and then we talked about what would be good to leave behind. If you'll remember, the heavy baggage, the oversized luggage of old beliefs, old ideas, old judgments about what we think our path should look like and what's possible for us. We also want to leave behind that fearful, false self as much as we can. And then we agreed on the things that we were going to bring with us. Number one, our commitment. Number two, the angel guides or the spirit animal guides. Remember we talked about that? Or the forest deva, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Whatever speaks to you as a spiritual guide. Want to bring that along. Also, our patience, and lots of self-love, right? And then finally, we want to bring with us our sense of humor. Got to have the sense of humor. It's what connects us, really, with each other. Okay, so we're walking along the path, and the first station that we come to in the Serenity Trail, by the way, how many people have indeed walked that Serenity Trail? Right? Yeah, most of you. If you haven't had a chance, I absolutely encourage you. And you now you have a little handout, so you can kind of take that with you as you walk along the way. So the first stop is the burl wood tree. That's that tree with this kind of big kind of cancerous-looking tumor that grows on some trees, and this one's really big. And that day, Reverend Rosemary reminded us that that could represent for us places in ourselves that we judge as undesirable or shameful or ugly, or some place in our past, some painful experience that's left us with a nasty scar, or some difficult feelings, or, that kind of thing, something we would judge harshly. And the key here about that is to not look away, but to face it, to look with as much self-love as we can. As much self-love as we can, and to look at all places of ourselves as whole and beautiful, and to look for the gift in that. To look for the gift in every situation, in every place that we judge harshly, because I guarantee you, a gift is there. God wouldn't have it any other way, right? So it's about peeling back that layer and calling forth the gift that's there. What a huge blessing is, I promise you, in store there. I mean, if you pull away the bark of that burl wood, you've got this gorgeous wood grain. The burl wood grain, highly prized, very, very valuable. It's beautiful, beautiful wood. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we're walking along. The second station that we come to is the forest deva. And the sign there says, a deva is an angelic feminine spirit, an expression of Mother Earth, who oversees and guides all trees, plants, minerals, elements in her area of the forest. There is a deva here in this forest, and here's her message. I am the deva of the forest. I represent the divine feminine in all her aspects. Beloved seekers of the way, join with me and ask for my guidance and inspiration, knowing fully well that whatever is asked can be granted. The first step is the asking. So Reverend Rosemary reminded us that the builders of the Serenity Trail felt that presence. They felt that presence strongly, and they opened to it, and they listened to it, and they partnered with that spirit. In fact, the entire Serenity Trail is the result of their partnering with that. So that models for us, how to partner with spirit, and move forward following that guidance. It's a beautiful model. Okay, so the third station that we encounter on this Serenity Trail is the stream of life. The stream of life, the stream of love, that begins with Tagore's beautiful poem. The same stream of life that runs through the world runs through my veins night and day and dances in rhythmic measure. It is the same stream of life that shoots in joy through the dust of the earth into numberless blades of grass and breaks into tumultuous waves of flowers. Beautiful. That's a call for us to remember the interconnectedness of all of life. The unity and oneness of all of life. Now that day was an eventful one. It was summer solstice, remember? So we had this opportunity to really honor Mother Earth. It was also Father's Day. So we had the opportunity, Reverend Rosemary was talking about how this beautiful marriage between Mother Earth and Father Son and the beautiful creations that are birthed every day from that union. It was also the day after the massacre in Charleston at the Emmanuel AME Church, the day or 2 days after or something like that. Yeah. And she reminded us that the events following that event, the response after that event, that unbounded compassion that we human beings are capable of. that unbounded love and compassion that we are all capable of. Beautiful gift that is. We're continuing to hold that all in prayer. That's the other blessing. We have prayer. Okay, so the next station that we encounter on our Serenity Trail is closely related to the stream of life, and that's the breath of life. And if you'll remember, I divided the room into two groups. One side of the room was exhaling, as the other side of the room was inhaling. And this side of the room exhaled, and this side of the room inhaled. And it was this beautiful dance of sharing the one breath. And then we opened the doors, and we became conscious that we actually do share a breath with the trees. With all the trees, we share a breath. We became conscious of that. And then we became conscious that that one breath that we breathe, with every breath that we breathe, that's the first breath. It's connected with the first breath of creation. That first breath. With every breath we breathe, whether we realize it or not, but when we're conscious of it, that's the experience of divinity. That's the experience of the sacred. That's the experience of Holy Spirit. Just take that deep breath in with that consciousness that is that one breath. The experience of the sacred. Yeah. Okay, and as I was putting this talk together, I kept thinking, God, I'm missing something. There's one of these, I can't, what's wrong? I've forgotten one. And it was station number 5, the dissolving stress into peace, Reverend Rosemary's talk that day. And the thing that I remember, there were some beautiful ideas that day, but the one thing that really stuck in my mind was this idea of really recognizing and identifying the ego. In fact, she suggested, put a name to it. Kind of name it. And what happens when you do that is that, then you have some objectivity, right? And you have your choice. You can either choose to continue in the behaviors and the feelings of the ego, or now you can choose to connect with a higher aspect of yourself. So that was such a beautiful idea, I thought. Okay, so the next station that we explored is peace is in every step. And we really explored this idea of living consciously, of living in that extraordinary place of peace. That extraordinary place of peace that mindfulness can bring to us. And so we added to the idea of becoming conscious of our breath to also become conscious of all the other areas in our life that we usually do automatic pilot. Really become mindful of our walking, our eating, other things like that. And so we worked with this idea of combining our breathing with our steps, as Thich Nhat Hanh suggested we do, which is written on that sign, his suggestion to walk a little slower than our normal pace and coordinate our breathing with our steps. For example, he says we may take 3 steps with each in-breath and 3 steps with each out-breath. And in so doing, we print peace and serenity on the earth. Our every step can be like a kiss on the earth. So we also explored that day becoming more conscious of our eating. And I led you in this meditation about a seed that grows into a vine with the cycles of the earth and the cycles of the wind and the sun and the rain, how that vine begins to mature and a little bud of fruit begins to happen, and with more cycles of sun and rain, that blossoms, it ripens into fruit. And we also bless the farm workers and the whole process. And so by the time we actually put that fruit in our mouth, I handed out a grape to everybody, and you put that grape in your mouth, it was like tasting grape for the first time. It really became mindful with that grape. And so we concluded that day about bringing that consciousness, that conscious, peaceful living out into the world by sharing of ourselves in service to others. In that way, we truly become a peacemaker. Peacemaker. Okay, so now the next station stop is heart-centered appreciation. Heart-centered appreciation. And Reverend Rosemary's talk that day was about how cultivating and practicing heartfelt gratitude in all of those moments of surprise in our daily lives can actually help us in living life more fully. And she quoted Brother David Stendhal Rast, the constant gift of each moment to our hearts brings to mind the expanding ripples on the surface of a pond. The pebble that starts the ripples is the little plop of surprise. As the ripples expand, we come alive. In the end, gratefulness will be our full aliveness to a freely given world. And so she led us in a meditation about focusing on our heart, bringing to mind something or someone we love, and feeling the feelings of love generated in our body, feeling the sensations in our body that love really fills us with. And the idea there is that when we become conscious of being centered in our heart and feeling that love and the sensations of love in our body, we can more easily become centered when little bumps in the road or little plops of surprise tempt to really disrupt our little peaceful pond. Instead, those plops of surprise can be the ripples of peace and gratitude and aliveness. I love that image. Okay, so now we're really walking more deeply into the forest. And the stop here along the thickest part of the forest is about forgiveness. It's about forgiveness. And my talk title that day was Becoming Truly Free. Because lack of forgiveness and resentment imprisons us. It is absolutely the thing that restricts our experience of happiness in our lives. And most of the time we're unaware of it. We're unaware of all the resentments that build up. We're unaware of the detrimental effects that can have. It can really be poisonous for our physical and emotional body. So forgiveness is about lifting that heavy burden of resentment we've been carrying so that we can be free. So that we can be free to realize our full divine potential. And it's a process. It's a process that first begins by owning the feelings and everything that comes up at the beginning after some hurtful event. And rather than dismissing it or praying it away or, pretending it's not there, really owning it and working through it, processing it, working through it. And then we come to the beautiful part of forgiveness, which is the key there then, when we're ready for that, is to separate out what somebody has done from who they truly are and to behold their divine self. That's truly the key. But it's a process. And if you'd like to have more work in this area, I think you need a little more support and work in this area. Marilyn, I don't think Marilyn's here today. Okay, Marilyn is planning to do, I think it's a 4-week class beginning the end of September on forgiveness. So be on the lookout for that, because that's, it takes support in working through this. Absolutely. Okay, so look, here we are. And we're here. The last two stops along our path is, the next one is gratitude. And that day, because I'd spoken so much about the power of gratitude, I spoke that day about the creative power of gratitude. This is kind of a little more advanced use of the power of gratitude, the creative power. And if you'll remember, I spoke about how everything in the universe, whether it's natural or man-made, is really ultimately created from infinite, invisible substance. Astrophysicists would call that dark matter, maybe. But we know it as intelligence, it's creative, it's infinite, it's that infinite, invisible substance. And I shared with you some of the Hidden Gospel book, Neil Douglas Klotz's book, how he explained when one wishes to shift the shape of reality, one works first with the tools with which heaven operates. Sound, atmosphere, vibration, word, and light. These are the tools Yeshua used, he said. So we talked briefly about each one of these, and especially the last one, light. We talked about what is that? What is that light? And light illuminates, right? Light helps us to see clearly. And what does a regular practice of gratitude do? It helps us to see clearly the blessings that are already in our lives. Those things that, most people overlook. Gratitude helps us to see it clearly. And so we use that a step further, and when we envision and are grateful for something in advance of actually experiencing it, what we're doing is bringing that future envisioned experience into the present. We're pulling it into the present. We're pulling from that infinite, creative, invisible into our experience. It's really a miraculous, magical process that if you want to work with this a little bit more and know more about this, as well as some of the other things that I mentioned today, then you'll want to sign up for the Conscious Co-Creating class, because we really, really work on that. Work on it together. Okay, so now we've reached the last station on our Serenity Trail, and that is experiencing your heart's desire. And Reverend Rosemary talked to us about how that the whole process really begins by appreciating and experiencing our embodied divinity. That we are physical. What an opportunity we have as physical expressions of the divine, of pure spirit, physical expressions. And we can experience that more fully when we connect with nature, when we become present in our bodies, when we are present in our lives rather than distracting ourselves all the time. When we're focused, when we're aware of the thoughts in our mind, and all of that goes together, and we can use now the thoughts that we have become aware of, and use those thoughts to help create the desires of our heart. That's that process. So that's it. We've reached the end of our Serenity Trail, but of course, as you know, the end of something, the end of this begins now, the beginning of the practice. Now we're beginning to actually embody these truths in our lives, right? So that we can be the individual expressions of God that we were created to be. There's support here for you in this. I've already mentioned 2 different classes that you could, they're there to support you in embodying these truths and in working with these. It's really in working with these principles and practices and applying it to your lives. That's the part, that's where transformation happens. So, you have a choice. You can just kind of listen and hope some of these ideas stick. Maybe. or actually work with them, actually work with these practices and these principles. That's the transformation. All right, so blessings to you all. It's been a wonderful summer and a wonderful way to experience our Serenity Trail. So I hope you'll all go walk out there, if not today, maybe within this week, and really get that deep experience of it. And namaste.